Hello, everyone, and welcome to CoSIDA Conversations with the CoSIDA President and Executive Director. I'm Sam Atkinson, the 2020-21 CoSIDA President and Associate Athletic Director for Communications at Gallaudet University. I'm joined by CoSIDA Executive Director Doug Vance. Doug, how's it going? And welcome back to CoSIDA Conversations.
Well, thanks, Sam. Obviously, it's that time of year where we're winding down everything, and we can get into that a little bit more detail here as we go forward. But it's kind of the signals the end of the year, and it signals the start of a new year. So it's a busy time, and I know for our members it's extremely busy right now. But I'm glad to take time to talk to you again, and this will be our last show.
Absolutely, and looking forward to it, Doug. Some great topics for us to discuss in a couple of minutes, but just a reminder, CoSIDA Conversations is a monthly conversation between the CoSIDA President and the Executive Director to discuss all things CoSIDA, the profession, and our members. We want to make sure everyone knows what the organization is doing and discuss the items, projects, and initiatives we are working on. In this episode, we will discuss the interesting spring semester, the Academic All-America program, CoSIDA 21 virtual convention, and we will be joined by CoSIDA staff member Beau White to discuss CoSIDA's strategic branding review. So let's get started with our sixth episode. Doug, this spring semester has been a grind for our CoSIDA members, as many had to juggle not only the normal spring sports slate of games and responsibilities, but throw in winter and in some cases fall sports, and it was a heavy lift for a lot of our members. What were your observations from the sprawl seasons we witnessed this past few months?
Well, as you say, it was a year unlike any other in the history of our profession. I felt for what our members were having to deal with, and the workload that they were having to endure, the demands on them. We could see it coming. It was like a tsunami coming at us back in the first semester, and I just admire our members for stepping up and doing the job. That's what they always do. They're given a job and they do it. They don't ask questions. I think it was probably a learning year for all of us, and I sure hope we don't have to go through that again. I know our members are worn out right now, just totally fatigued, and this summer will be a thing that's badly needed for our people to recharge their batteries.
Yeah, Doug, it seemed like not just only the amount of games and how quickly the games were taking place, but also with still dealing with the pandemic and COVID protocols that a lot of schools had to go through and have their teams go through. It just really seemed like an exhausting year for a lot of our members. But at the end of the day, the games did take place, and for many sports, their conferences and national championships took place. Seemed like a sense of normalcy. It seems like the light at the end of the tunnel continues to grow. It's been over a year since this COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the world. But we're coming down the home stretch, and it's fun to watch these spring sports and the regionals and the national championship games taking place in May and some into June. And in turn, it is nice to see CoSIDA to recognize those SIDs on the various national champions teams that they're promoting and working with. And maybe that recognition this year has an extra meaning for our membership. Doug, what do you think about that and these spring championships? Kind of seems a little normal.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's some factors there. We're getting back to some more normalcy because COVID is on the way. I hope I can say this accurately, is on the way out, and we are getting back to what we perceive as a normal life, and how it impacts all of us. And the national championship recognition, it will mean something to those people. They probably worked harder than they ever have in any other previous year to be a part of all that. So I certainly hope it's greatly appreciated, and over the years to look back on that particular trophy and remember what happened during this particular year. But you hope that next year we're back to a normal routine, and we're not talking about all these unique circumstances that influence our jobs. and how we get things done, and how it impacts student athletes and coaches, and I'm sure what we all went through will factor in and how we do the job in the future, what we've learned from it, the technology that's come about as a result of it. But before we worry about that too much, I think we all need to use the summer just to, as I said, recharge the batteries, lay in bed a long time, and get some rest.
A big reset for sure, and special good luck to any of our members who still have teams in competition in these final weeks into the spring semester as we get towards the finish line here. And you're talking about normalcy, and one thing that we're always normal for us as CoSIDA members, every year in and year out, is the Academic All-America program. And to keep up with this unique year narrative, we pivot to that program, which has been delayed until the spring, but is now well underway with nominations and voting ongoing. And this will continue into the month of June. It's been different. It's been compressed, Doug, and more condensed for our members to nominate, vote, and for the announcements of these teams. It's been a different year, but it's also important for CoSIDA to continue this program. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I definitely do, Sam, and I'm really proud of our folks for making that commitment. The committee in particular has had to labor through a lot of difficult decisions and how it functions and to make all this happen. I remember last year about this time or earlier, we all said, we're not going to take this honor away from our student athletes. We're going to continue this. And there are some challenges in figuring out how, and it's not a perfect system by any stretch of the imagination. But we think about what this means to our student athletes and the honor that they received, and they're able to take that with them throughout their life. And I'm really proud of the fact that we were able to continue this program.
Absolutely, and a special thanks to the CoSIDA Academic All-America Committee, which is led by Kevin Lenke, and a special thanks to all of our CoSIDA members for nominating and voting on this year's ballots. You can continue to vote in these coming weeks into the month of June. And more information about the program can be found at CoSIDA.com/Academic All-America. Doug, let's move on to the CoSIDA 21 virtual convention, which will be held June 7th through the 10th. Normally in May, we are prepping to meet in person for our annual CoSIDA convention, but for the second year in a row, the convention has moved to a virtual format. But having more time to plan for this compared to last year has probably made CoSIDA better prepared to deliver a high-level program in a virtual environment. Doug, you and the CoSIDA staff have been meeting for months preparing for this, and the CoSIDA Professional Development Committee, led by Second Vice President Jessica Poole and Third Vice President John Paquette, have come up with some great programs for our members to enjoy next month. What can you share with our members as we prepare for the convention?
Well, I think it's. I agree with you. We learned from last year's convention. We had about 3 months to put that together, and it was a good event. But we learned from it from a technology standpoint what we could do, and we've been able to improve on that, on how it's going to be delivered this year. It's going to be a new program. It's called an attendee hub, and I think people who attend will notice a big difference in the quality of it, and just being able to be a participant in it. We've added a couple of social events just to try to put an element of fun back into the convention. But overall, I think I hope we're able to say this is our last virtual convention. I hope we get out of the business of doing this online and doing it in person in Las Vegas, and I'm optimistic that we'll be able to do that going forward.
Yeah, I hope so too, Doug. And just to pinpoint a couple of the big highlights for people, and you can get all this information on CoSIDA.com/2021 convention. But we have our typical divisional days. We do have a CoSIDA U programming taking place from June 2nd to the 3rd. We have some great speakers in different sessions from June 7th to June 10th. Some of those divisional days will carry over to the week after the convention. But we'll begin on Monday, June 7th with a State of Association address with myself and you, Doug, as we go through the organization and what we've been able to accomplish this past year and looking ahead. And that will lead into our opening keynote with Dr. Ivan Joseph to discuss transform your self-confidence and accelerate your career. And then we'll wrap up the convention on Thursday, June 10th with the CoSIDA's President's Roundtable, our CoSIDA business meeting, leading into the keynote of controlling the message and content management and creation with award-winning sports journalist and author Joanne C. Gerstner. So looking forward to that programming. As you mentioned, also some fun social things for our members to interact with us this year. We will have our 5K virtual race along with a trivia night and also an online golfing open for the first time. So looking forward to those. And then lastly, paying tribute to and recognizing our members who are getting inducted into the CoSIDA Hall of Fame and also our CoSIDA Academic All-America Hall of Fame inductees, not just for this year, 2021, but also for 2020. So for anybody that hasn't seen so far, there's been some great special award videos being published and shared on CoSIDA.com and also on CoSIDA's YouTube page. And a special congratulations to all of our special award winners for 2020 and also 2021. Doug, anything else you'd like to add about the convention and what our members could expect?
Well, just I would like to take a moment and thank all those people who've been involved in making this convention happen. Things like this, as everybody in our profession knows who are in event planning, these things don't happen without a lot of people putting in a lot of time and making a commitment. From the programming committee to the special awards committee and to the board of directors, all of our cabinet leaders, and lastly, our staff who have, I'm really proud of them of what they've done. We talk about this all year long and what we want to do and how we want to put it together. And I think with the great support of our members, I think people will be very impressed with what they see June 7th and 10th and the weeks surrounding it as well.
Absolutely. And we encourage everybody to use our official hashtag of hashtag CoSIDA21 on Twitter to talk all things CoSIDA and about the 2020 virtual convention in the coming weeks ahead. So we're really looking forward to that. And we're also looking forward to our next guest coming up after the break. We will be joined by Beau White, CoSIDA's Director of Creative Services, to discuss CoSIDA's Strategic Branding Review. CoSIDA would like to take a moment to thank its Tier 1 partners for their commitment and support of CoSIDA. Welcome back to CoSIDA Conversations. We are now joined by Beau White, CoSIDA's Director of Creative Services, to discuss CoSIDA's Strategic Branding Review. Beau, how's it going? And welcome to CoSIDA Conversations.
Sam, I'm doing all right. We're real busy right now trying to get a lot of things done for the convention and all of our special awards and Academic All-America, but I'm very pleased to join you today to talk about this important topic.
Thanks, Beau, and thanks for making time for us today. Last month, CoSIDA announced the launch of this Strategic Branding Review. The CoSIDA Executive Board of Directors has commissioned this review, which is being led by Beau and myself. Beau, it seems like an ideal time after what our profession and members had to deal with during the pandemic as they relied heavily on technology and working remotely. This profession has been changing for years with digital, social media, and other technologies, and it just seems like the pandemic maybe exposed that and it sped things up for a lot of our members. Is this the right time?
Yeah, that's a good question, Sam. I think I've heard you use that term "sped things up" a few times, and I do think that's definitely true. That people have been forced to be more creative during the past year. Is this the right time to look at a branding conversation for CoSIDA? I always think it's the right time. You know, the last time we did it was about 10 years ago, and we got some great. I wasn't with the organization and on the staff at that time, but there were some great answers provided from that study, and it's just time to do it again. And as the profession has changed, we're in a way different place than we were 10 years ago. So I think it's the perfect time.
Or even just 5 years ago, it seems like as things continue to speed up. One area identified by the executive board of directors for the longevity of the organization is looking at the health of our membership numbers and overall health of the profession. As many of our members have been tasked to learn new skills or carry new digital or creative content or content creation roles, we have seen other creative and digital jobs pop up in the collegiate athletic space. Can CoSIDA be the home for those digital and creative people?
That's another big question. I think that we think it can be. And these new positions, I look at CoSIDA, there's kind of three different levels. There's the actual people, and that's who we really care about is what's happening to people. But there's also the profession. And if you got a chance to read our latest magazine, there was a little bit in there about kind of my take on some of that. And I think that defining what the profession is a key thing to do. Our mission statement, it reads, the athletics communication community or something to that effect. And as everybody has different titles and everything, the third level is the national organization. And so in my mind, what we want to do is, and what we always have done, is to create an organization where everybody feels welcome and supported regardless of their title or their job role. So with that said, we're not trying to tell people what they should call themselves or what types of people they should hire per se. But what we are saying is whether you hire 10 SIDs or you hire 5 SIDs and 5 graphic designers, all those people have a place with CoSIDA. And I think that's where I'm at with this process in the beginning stages.
Yeah, and it seems like at the end of the day, no matter what your title is or what your role is, a lot of us who are in the communications field, we are still creating content. And that's the same for digital and creatives as they're creating content that is communicated to their fan bases and to their alumni and supporters of their programs. And you mentioned that CoSIDA 360 issue. We're going to get to that in a second, but let's step back for a moment and look at your career, Beau. And your perspective is different than some who have been more of a traditional sports information director. Can you share with us your athletic communications background and how you personally got involved with digital and creative and content creation?
Yeah, I can do that. So I did start as a traditional SID. I worked as a student assistant at Missouri State, first of all, and the man I worked for, Hall of Famer Mark Stillwell, he was as SID as it gets because we even called him Sid. So as I moved on from there, I did serve as a traditional SID for 5 years, and it was great. But the parts of the job that I really gravitated to was the creative side, and this was back in the mid 2000s, and that's really when I'll call it new media or creative positions really started to begin. Most of the people doing it were former SIDs, or at least had some experience in the traditional office.
Right.
And they were taking on different roles. And so about halfway through my time at Kansas, an opportunity came open for me to be our graphic designer. So that was a more creative role. So when I took that position, I remember my boss at the time asked me if I still wanted to be a member of CoSIDA, and I'm like, well, of course I do. And I still had many like secondary SID responsibilities,
right?
Traveling with teams or keeping score at games, helping with notes, all that stuff. I still did all that. It just wasn't my primary job, and I still wanted to be a member. And at that time, I think that there was some, there were some people who didn't feel like CoSIDA was right for them anymore because they had that different job. And so I think that's another big piece of this is changing that culture for everybody to feel like I'm part of communications, whether I'm a writer or I draw the pictures or I take the video or whatever it is that you do. It's all communications to me.
Right. And we mentioned before CoSIDA recently published its spring edition of CoSIDA 360, and the title was "All Creative Communicators Deserve a Seat at our Table." Can you share with our audience some of the key stories in that issue and what you learned as you helped to put this publication together?
Absolutely. So our cover story was really kind of a combination of 3 stories. And so I wrote one of them, and it had that title that you mentioned about everyone deserves a seat at our table. The other 2 pieces, one was on the evolution of storytelling by Emory Halevi at Harvard. Emory is a very sharp and very forward-looking thing, and anybody who follows him on Twitter knows exactly what I'm talking about. You should go follow him, Emory H, on Twitter. But he really shed some light on exactly what I'm talking about, is that it doesn't really matter what your job title is or what your role is. We're all creative communicators, and that's never been true any time in our history. The other piece, which I was also very excited about, was about elevating creative services at small colleges. So not everybody can hire an army of people, especially at the Division III, the NAIA, and even the Division II level.
Sure.
A lot of one-person shops up there. And so another focus of our work, I think, is it's inevitable that people are going to look for creative people. And so what we want to see happen is the addition of staff. We want Gallaudet to hire a creative person to sit next to you, Sam, and you guys be a team and work together. We don't want them to replace SIDs, because SIDs are still needed. The jobs are not going, and the responsibilities are not going away, but they are being added.
No, and it definitely seems like the amount of digital requests and creative requests that you're seeing in this profession nowadays can be overwhelming for somebody that might be a one-person shop, and they're trying to do a little bit of everything, and in the end, maybe their entire skill sets are suffering because they cannot focus on one area or the other. And having an additional staff member that could help work in that creative space would be instrumental for a lot of schools, and it's also valuable for the recruitment, retention, for a lot of the college division universities moving ahead. So if you haven't given a read to that CoSIDA 360, I think this is an excellent issue. It talks about a lot of these questions that we're just discussing now, and it really dives more into looking ahead and looking to where our profession and organization is headed. So Beau, our final question, and we appreciate your time. And I know myself, I'm really looking forward to working with you and others on this strategic review, branding review. But what do you hope CoSIDA can accomplish with this strategic branding review?
Well, there's a lot that I think we want to accomplish, and it starts with getting as many people bought in and invested and caring about this process as we can. So, in a normal year, we have 3,200 or more members, and anybody who has an opinion on this, we want to hear from them, and we are going to reach out to as many people as we can, because this shouldn't be any branding conversation any decision should not be made by just a few people. It should be by the organization and its leaders.
And we have a great governance structure this year too, with all the different cabinets, and we're going to utilize those individuals and even our key stakeholders externally with our organization as well, right?
Absolutely, and we've already started to do that as we're looking to see who would serve on the working group and be part of the decision-making body. We have engaged all of our governance cabinets for their input, for their nominations of who could serve, and they're going to be key every step of the way. And the other thing, Sam, that I would say that we want to accomplish is kind of what I mentioned earlier. We want to welcome new types of members into this organization. And so that's going to require a culture shift by a lot of people. It's going to require those creative people to feel welcome and to want to be part of an organization like us. And we know that they do from already talking to a lot of people.
Right.
They're in the same place that SIDs were years ago, and they're looking for that seat at the table that we talked about earlier. And to be candid, they just don't really have it. There's so many informal groups that are so great, but when it comes to being at the table the same way that SIDs are with CoSIDA, it's not the same. And so we're going to need a change in mindset to be inclusive of all types of communications professionals.
Absolutely. And even also looking at younger people in the profession too, and our younger student workers, grad assistants and interns. There's opportunities to get more people involved with CoSIDA at an earlier stage in their career. And this is a very exciting time for the organization as we move ahead and look ahead to how things might look in the coming years. And Beau, looking forward to working with you on this, and we really appreciate your time and for joining us on CoSIDA Conversations today.
Thank you, Sam. I'm excited that you're going to be leading this effort, and really appreciate you having me on today.
Thanks, Beau. And when Doug and I return, we will wrap things up and take a look back and look forward. And welcome back to CoSIDA Conversations. Doug, in our recent Executive Board of Directors meeting in May, you shared a document with the board about the various accomplishments achieved during a very unique year. Can you elaborate with our viewers about that list and how it came about and what it showed to you?
Yes, Sam. I was. We were getting ready for a staff retreat, kind of a two-day event. I started thinking about all the things that we have done this year. We spend a lot of time talking about what we haven't been able to do, all the negative of the COVID and how it's impacted all of us. So I just started writing down a list of things we've accomplished. I went through the year, went through the archives on the website, and it really the list grew and grew. It was more than one page of things. Some of them small things, some of them big things. But we were productive in the organization, and the members were productive. We didn't just stand still, and that's the key that I think that list demonstrates. We're going to make that list public. But again, it's a lot of different things. Some of them small, some of them large, and I think people will be surprised all that we did as a profession, from our compensation survey to the advocacy magazine. To the new leadership structure. There are many more things that we did that were really impactful on us as an organization and our profession. And hopefully we can create another list in the years ahead.
I agree, and look forward to seeing that shared with our membership so they can see it firsthand, all the different things that we've been able to accomplish, big and small, in a unique year. And I would also encourage our members to take a minute and look back at the year that they've had personally on their own campus and make a list like this. And I'm sure they've accomplished a lot of different things that they never would have imagined, 2 years ago. And then, to be in this situation this past year and the amount of different hurdles and obstacles our members had to go through and deal with has been, it's been crazy. But it's been great to see the success of our members continuing through some difficult times and getting to that finish line of this school year. Doug, moving on to another topic here. For the past few years, CoSIDA staff and a few other contributors have been creating blogs for CoSIDA's Bigger Picture blog, which is takes members behind the scenes of what the CoSIDA staff and volunteer leadership is working on for its members. There have been many great posts recently from staff sharing some great perspective and advice, especially when it comes to self-care and advocating for yourself. But a recent blog hit home to you personally, Doug, as you penned one about your 50th wedding anniversary with your wife, Sue. Can you share how you and Sue have navigated the sports information work life for over 5 decades?
Well, somebody asked me that recently, what's the key to success? And I said, number one, she's always right. I learned that early in the marriage, that she is right, whether she's right or not.
Right.
And second of all, probably more importantly, the key is picking out the right person. And I got lucky in that regard. And ironically, as I said in my blog, that I started in this job about a year after we've been married. So this job has kind of carried our lives as a family through, and she's been a part of that, and that's what helped. She said early on that us being separated helped our marriage, and because it made us appreciate the time we were together. And so I just wanted to carry that message forward. It is awful hard to be married to an SID. It is awfully hard because of the time demands and if nothing else. So I know that's a big part of it. Happy wife, happy life. That's the old saying. So it's really important. Those people who are with us, who are our partners, their happiness is really key, and to make us happy too. So as I started thinking about it, I just wanted to deliver that message.
Well, thanks for sharing that with our membership, Doug, and happy anniversary to you. Thank you. Sue, and to in a special shout out to all the spouses out there for other SIDs. The SID life is a difficult life sometimes, but it can also be a very rewarding life for those that can make it work.
Exactly.
Well, Doug, this is our sixth and final CoSIDA Conversations during my CoSIDA presidency, and I just wanted to thank you and Beau White and all of our guests we've had on the show this past year. It's been a great, interesting year to say the least, but I hope these conversations have helped to share a more personal side of the person in the CoSIDA presidency role. And I appreciate you, Doug, for your guidance and advice during this year.
Well, Sam, it's we talk about all the difficulties for the CoSIDA president. No CoSIDA president has faced a more difficult challenge than you have, and you've kept the ship afloat. You've kept it headed forward, and that's a credit to you and your commitment to this organization. I don't know of anybody who's more committed to CoSIDA than Sam Atkinson has been, and I hope this year has been as enjoyable as possible. And thanks to you for making all that happen.
Thanks, Doug. I really appreciate that. And I've really enjoyed these conversations. It's allowed you and I to share interesting news with our membership, and also kind of express, some of our frustrations and also excitements of achieving different things throughout this difficult year. And again, just thank you and the CoSIDA staff and the entire board for your guys' help throughout the year. Well, that does it. Thank you for joining us on CoSIDA Conversations, and feel free to continue this conversation on social media. You can reach Doug and I on Twitter. I'm at Sam Atkinson SID, or at Vance CoSIDA. So we'll be happy to engage with you on social media. If you have any other questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us at any time. But most importantly, take some time for yourself and disconnect from your devices, reconnect with family and friends this summer, and just enjoy the break as we get ready for next fall.